All right, lads. So I've been delaying this for a good while now, and I don't know why. I guess it's just because I don't really know how I would make a video like this, but you know, I'm gonna try, yeah? So this past January, I had the absolute once in a lifetime opportunity to attend the Rolex 24. I've been watching motorsport for, call it, 10 years. I've been watching racing since 2012. And in all my time down here in Jamaica watching motorsport, I had never been to an international race in my life. All of my experience with international motorsport has just been strictly through a screen. But I finally did get the opportunity. It was something I told my parents about. I was like, hey, Rolex 24 is next year. And not only that, but I got the week off at work, coincidentally the same weekend as the race. So everything kind of came together. And I'd been so complacent with never going to a race that it's almost as if I was satisfied with the fact that, something, maybe I'll never get to watch this thing live. But it worked out, you know? And I have to say, none of this would have been possible without, my parents helping me out, but also my wonderful mutual Cleo, who was really just the backbone of this trip in terms of getting everything planned, where we were gonna stay, how we're gonna get to the track, all of that. If it wasn't for her, this trip would have this trip wouldn't have happened at all. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure this trip was high key her idea more than it was mine. She just kept telling me, don't worry, it's gonna work out. And it did. And yeah, she's absolutely 100% to thank for this trip happening. So another thing about me going to Daytona is that I hadn't left Jamaica in 7 years. I had not left the country in 7 years. So I completely forgot the airport process, all of that stuff, because the last time I went abroad, I was a child and I was going with my father, and he was the guy that handled all the airport stuff. So this was the first time in my whole life I had left the country by myself. Yeah. So having to do things like check in, all of that stuff, going through security by myself, all of that stuff I was quite afraid of because I'd never done it by myself before. But now that I've done it, I can easily say that it's just taking the bus with extra steps. It really is. And it was way easier because I had a backpack with me. I didn't bring a suitcase, even though I spent a week there. I brought enough stuff in the backpack to last me the entire time. But anyways, yeah, so went to the airport, got on my flight, and I made it in Orlando around like after 6-ish. It was evening time when I got there. Then I met up with Cleo. My cousin took us to the hotel. So yeah, we were stayed at a pretty decent hotel on Daytona Beach, very very close to the track. Yeah, it was around like, let's say 10 to 15 minutes away. It wasn't bad at all. It was very very close proximity. And yeah, man, we were there. So the first day, right? So luckily I didn't buy the ticket online, and I was actually thinking to myself, how am I gonna, I was worried for no reason that the only way you could get a 4-day pass was online, but apparently it wasn't. All I did was go to the ticket booth and I just purchased a 4-day ticket there. And near the ticket office there was a store with all kinds of racing merch, and I bought a Dale Earnhardt diecast and a Shane Van Gisbergen diecast, and they were both like $15. They had the 124 scale cars too, but I was too, it was quite expensive. I wasn't that, and they didn't have anyone in particular that I wanted, so I was like, whatever, I'll live without it. But yeah, man, just seeing the track while going, like on our way there, you could see the track obviously, and it was just so surreal, just finally seeing somewhere that you've been watching on a screen for 10 years. It's just out of this world. So we got the ticket, I got the QR code on my phone, I scanned it, I got my 4-day pass, and with the armband I was able to skip lines on all of that because I'd already done the checking in stuff on the first day. So we got to the track right at the end of first practice. First practice had just ended. We got to the track right at the end of that. And then after that, while we are walking through the tunnel and we're actually in the infield, it's so crazy. I saw Pato O'Ward on one of them golf carts just driving by, and that's when it hit me. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm really here. Like, I'm really in the same space as these people. And also, while I was walking, I saw Ritomo Miyata, who was, I guess, walking to a motorhome, but he was just there. It was crazy, right? So what else did we do upon reaching there? There was another merch store right in the heart of the infield, and I went in there, and they had a lot of nice things. They had die-casts of endurance cars. They had a lot of merch for the endurance team specifically. The store I went to earlier had mostly NASCAR stuff for obvious reasons, but this was an IMSA store. So there was Ford Multimatic merch, Wayne Taylor merch, all that kind of stuff. I didn't buy any, but it was cool to see, right? So yeah, what happened after that was we started walking around the garage, and it was insane. We were just walking through the garage and we could see all of these cars right up close and personal. You could walk up right to them. You couldn't literally go inside the garage, but you could walk up to them. You could take pictures from outside. You could get as close as it would have been okay for a fan to have gotten close to. It was perfect. So I'm just here starstruck. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I'm seeing all of these drivers, and I just can't believe it. While Cleo and I were in the fan deck, we even saw the Iron Dames. The Iron Dames were doing like a photo shoot on the stairs, and we were able to see them for like a while they were doing the photo shoot, which was really cool. And yeah, what else? Okay, so after we got there, free practice was pretty much done, but then the MX-5s went out. I was trying to watch through the big screen that's in the infield, but it was giving trouble. It wasn't really showing properly. It was only showing like a third of the screen, but it showed enough for you to be able to like keep up with what was going on. Another thing that happened in the infield was we saw the classic cars get rolled out. So there were a lot of classic cars, a lot of old vehicles, 80s, 90s, that kind of era. I'm going through my phone right now just to keep myself up to date. Another thing I didn't mention is that we got to Daytona Tuesday, so there was no track action on Wednesday, so we actually just spent the whole day at the hotel, and I walked on the beach. We're right beside Daytona Beach, so we spent the whole day on the beach, which was kind of cool. But going back to the track, yeah, so we did see the classic cars get rolled out. They were really cool. There was a 956. There were a lot of classic Porsches. There was an old GTO Corvette. There's some really, really cool vehicles. An old BMW. All kinds of stuff. So I have to go through the gallery to remember the timeline, because I was just completely in the moment. So I was walking around the garage. I got shots of the new Mustang. I got shots of the hypercar garage. So we got to see the BMW, the Cadillac front bumper, all of that stuff. I got this picture of Augusto Farfus, who was just chilling in the garage area. And it's crazy the kind of guys you can see just by walking through the garage. When we were walking through the garage, I saw Rene Rast come out of one of the motorhomes adjacent to the garage, and I gave him a thumbs up and he gave me one back. It was cool. I also saw Chip Ganassi, which was also kind of cool. He was just sitting by one of the motorhomes. I waved at him, but I had my mask on, so he couldn't really hear what I was saying, so he told me to take it off so he could hear me. And we were there talking for a minute, so that was kind of cool. I met Chip Ganassi. And yeah, man, so day one was just us looking at hypercars in the garage. Another thing I managed to get was a shot of the Brad Pitt movie, the Formula One movie. Scenes of it were shot here. I managed to get a good shot of them doing one of the scenes where it appears the character comes back with a winner's trophy and goes into the garage. So that was kind of cool. And then as the day went on, I went into the infield. So I went further into the infield. So I'm pretty much where the tri-oval is. But then I went further towards the back stretch of the infield, and I got to see a bunch of different booths. So all the car companies, they had booths. Well, not all of them, but most of them. So there was a Lexus booth, a Cadillac booth, a Ford booth, a Honda booth, a Chevy booth. There are a lot of booths there. And if you signed up to like their newsletters or their email update thingies, you got a free shirt. So I actually ended up getting a free Ford shirt and a free Cadillac shirt. They also had a Multimatic Mustang. Ford, at least, they had one on display. They had the road going version and they had the sports car version, and I got to walk around it for a bit, and I got to be like right up and close and personal with it, which was really cool. So yeah, man, I got a Ford shirt and a Ford bag, a very small Ford bag. So anyways, I ended up staying and watching night practice. Grandstands weren't open, so I had to watch it from the fan deck. And you couldn't really see much from the fan deck. It's really hard to see the track from the fan deck in the tri-oval section. But I made it work. And as it regards the car sounds, the Cadillac supersedes all. I fell in love with Cadillac just by being at the track live and in person. It was absolutely awesome. No matter where that car was on the track, all you had to do was listen out and you could tell where it was, no matter where you were at the track. You could always tell where the Cadillac was because it just had that epic engine sound. Another thing that was cool was the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini is probably the best sounding GT3 car. Ford and Mercedes come close, but Lamborghini to me was the best sounding GT3. So that was day one. Day two, the grandstands were open. So we went over to that section to watch final practice. And I got some cool shots, some really, really cool shots. I got to go pretty close. I mean, I wasn't allowed out of the grandstands to like that flat area right up to the catch fence, but I got close enough and I got some very good shots, some very cool shots of the cars going by through the tri-oval. I took some very good pictures as well. And then once that was over, I went back to the infield, back to the fan deck. And that's when they rolled out the Garage 56 car. Now, I wasn't there when they rolled it out, but when I went back to the infield, it was there, and it wasn't there the day before. So I got some cool shots of the Garage 56 car. Anyways, I checked my program and I saw that autograph sessions were coming up around, I think it started around 2:30. And I was looking at, they obviously started to section off some areas and put up the section stickers to show you which section is where. And I saw a bunch of people at this section near the Wayne Taylor garage. And it was like after 12. And I'm like, why are there so many people here? And then I put two and two together and I'm like, wait. These guys are camping here effectively so that they'll be first in line when the autograph session begins. So luckily, thanks to my quick thinking, I joined the line. And I'm so glad I joined it when I did, because the line, by the time the autograph session had begun, was out of this world. It was so long. So I was so grateful that I pieced together what was going on and joined the line early. So in my section, I was able to meet the Wayne Taylor Andretti GT3 team. That's the Huracan. Ashton Harrison was a member of that team, which was really cool. So it was very nice meeting Ashton, Graham Doyle, Kyle Marcelli, all of those guys. So I met them. That was nice. I also met the Wayne Taylor, both Wayne Taylor GTP teams, the 10 and the 40, as well as the Action Express Cadillac team. So I met Marcus Ericsson, Albuquerque, Brendan Hartley, Ricky Taylor. That was nice. I met my GOAT. I met my idolo, Colton Herta, which I actually managed to get on video thanks to Cleo. Craziest thing ever. I told him I was his strongest soldier on Twitter, and it actually got a laugh from not only him but Jensen as well, who was right beside him. I met Jensen Button, first Formula One world champion I've ever met in my life. That was cool. And I met Tom Blomqvist, who is my friend on Twitter, Robert. Robert's a huge Tom Blomqvist fan, and I asked him if he could shout Robert out on a short video. And he did, and even Pipo Durrani kind of came in the video as well, which is nice. So I met those guys, and I met Jack Aitken. I got through rather quickly because I was early in the line. So I ended up joining another line. And in that line, I met the Pratt Miller guys at Corvette. And I met the Vassar Sullivan GTD team. And I met Ritomo Miata. My friend Fifth Gear is a huge Miata fan. So I got Ritomo to shout Fifth Gear out, which was a highlight of my weekend. Because one thing I really wanted to do was to make sure that I could get all of my other Twitter mutuals who I know are just as passionate about this as me. I wanted them to get some of the experience too. And if I could help them meet their favorite drivers through that, I was definitely gonna do it. That was the only reason I joined the line. I only joined that line so I could see Miata and see if he could give Fifth Gear a shout out, and he was nice enough to do so. That was awesome. And I was going to go in another line, but then my good pal Bryson Sullivan, he was in the garage area, and we ended up meeting Marshall Pruitt. Shout out Marshall Pruitt, man. We met Marshall Pruitt, and he allowed us to go inside the number 40 Acura's garage, and we spoke with one of the engineers for the team for like, let's say 15 to 20 minutes, and he was just walking us through the car and how it worked. So very exclusive, you know. It was just, couldn't believe it was happening. It was awesome. So I met Bryson. I met so many of my friends from my time on Clubhouse. My friend Yuri. I met my friend Sarah Levinson, who's with Grid Click, one of the up and coming racing media, you know, conglomerates in America. They do so much for women in motorsport. It was absolutely awesome meeting Sarah. And that was pretty much it for that day. So at the end of the day, after doing some more exploring, so I ended up getting the caddy shirt. I got the big IMSA poster, the Rolex 24 poster. I got a bunch of signatures on that. I got some driver cards, and I got a Colton Herta diecast, an IndyCar diecast at least, and a Greg Biffle 2019 Texas Race Win diecast, which was really cool. So we keep going on. That night I went to Fratelli's Pizzeria. I had a mutual, I believe his name is Miles Elkins. He told me that every time he goes to Daytona, he goes to Fratelli's. And I went to Fratelli's. I bought me an $11 cheese pizza, and I ate half of it, and it was awesome. And I brought the other half with me for the next day, which was the big race. So the next day came, Rolex 24. They let everybody onto the infield grass to watch the opening ceremony, which was really cool. But before that, when Cleo and I got to the garage, we were just walking around the garage, just looking at people. I met my friend Chiante. Shout out Chiante from Twitter. Sound guy. We talked for a good while. He was doing some work at the track. Awesome. So cool meeting him. And you know what's funny, folks? It was so surreal to me. It really showed me how far this intern stuff has come. Because here I am walking through a paddock in a whole other country, right? And there's a guy that says, yo, intern. Somebody's recognized me from Twitter, from all of these tweets and all of this stuff I've been doing on the internet under the intern moniker, and someone was able to recognize me. It really showed me how far this intern talks wheel stuff has come. So that was a real cool part, meeting Chiante. Another guy I met just casually in the paddock, Gunther Steiner, the ex-Haas F1 team principal. Everyone that knows me knows I'm Haas's strongest soldier. I met Gunther Steiner and I managed to get a picture with him. So random. I kept forgetting that coming to Daytona is something he does a lot. But yeah, met Gunther Steiner. That was so crazy. So anyways, we're in the infield now for the opening ceremonies. That took me a couple shots of the guys going up, and then the grandstands open, so we all flooded to the grandstands to watch the race. I met my bro Kadrian, another mutual I have on Twitter. It was cool meeting him. And then we're waiting for the race to start. The cars roll out. I realized that the Corvette, the AWA Corvette, wouldn't start. It was very scary. I was like, oh dear, are they gonna miss the race? And everyone was watching in intrigue, trying to see if the car was gonna start. And it did. Got a huge eruption from the crowd and it made it to the line. And then the race began, the green flag was in the air, everyone rolled off. And then the GTD cars rolled off, and then the Corvette rolled off, and everyone gave it a big old cheer. Then the cars came around, the GTPs, the LMP2s, the GTDs, and then just the one Corvette by itself. Everyone gave it a huge cheer. It was so cool. So yeah, we were in the stands for, how long was I in the stands? Till around evening time, not till sunset, but we were in the stands until evening time. Went back into the infield. I met up with my clubhouse friends. We took a huge group photo, and we were at the International Horseshoe. So I was with them for a bit, and we spent all night just in the infield, walking around, watching the race from different points in the track. Eventually we made it to Lake Lloyd, huge lake, but there was a lot of flies at the lake, so it's actually kind of disturbing being there. We made it to the Ferris wheel. I never went on the Ferris wheel. Apparently it was $14. I wasn't willing to pay that just to go on the Ferris wheel, but it looked cool. Yeah, we saw the carnival-ish section of it, which was really nice. Still using my gallery just to recollect my memories. And then we all met up at the fan deck. We just sat there right beside the timing tower, and me and my bro were just talking we're just talking wheel. We're just talking wheel for a good couple, minutes, as we were pretty much into the almost midnight section, almost halfway section, basically. So this is around 10 to 1 a.m. So then they went back to the hotel, but I was determined to stay for all 24 hours. I wasn't gonna go to the hotel and come back. I was staying for all 24 hours, which was a daunting task. Yeah, I took a picture with Bryson. That was cool. Shout out Bryson, man. Anyways, while we were in the paddock, I saw Scott Dixon. And my friend on Twitter, Susie, huge Scott Dixon fan, huge Pato fan. And when she saw me getting the Miata shout out for fifth gear and the Blomqvist shout out for Rob, she was like, where's my shout out? Intern, you better find Scott Dixon for me. And lo and behold, I'm in the infield and Scott Dixon's walking past. I'm like, hey Scott, how are you? My friend Susie's a huge fan of yours. Can I get a video of you shouting her out? And he was nice enough to do so. I sent it to Susie and she absolutely lost her mind. That was another highlight of the trip. But the low light of the trip came, listen guys, Daytona is cold, and I know I say this as a Caribbean citizen, so it's easy for me to call other places cold, but I mean to tell you that the, let's say, midnight to 4 a.m. section of the race was one of the most uncomfortable periods of my entire life. I had never been that cold in my life. I had on a mask, I had on a sweater, I had on a beanie, and I was shivering. I was shivering so hard. My teeth were hurting from the constant contact it was making with itself. It was insane. It was so cold. I'd never been that cold in my entire life. I couldn't manage it, folks. I really couldn't. On the bright side, during that period, I also saw Marshall again. We managed to take a picture. Shout out Marshall Pruitt. Top guy. Top lad. Anyways, as the night went on, the cars I pulled for all died one by one. The 40 Acura died, but eventually came back to life and was in contention for the rest of the way. Wasn't gonna win, but it was on the lead lap at least. The 01 Cadillac, the car I was rooting for to win the race, died in the middle of the night. And it wasn't even one of them deaths like the 10 Acura where it came back. The 01 Cadillac never came back. So Bourdais, Renger, Scott, Palou, all of them just had nothing to do for the rest of the day. What else was going on? Watching Connor Zilic was fun. I made a video on Connor Zilic just a while back. Watching Connor Zilic was cool. I was watching him in the MX-5 race and he was so close to winning it. I remember tweeting, I hope Zilic wins. He's the future of NASCAR. And he didn't win the MX-5 race, but lo and behold, when the sun came out the next day, Zilic won LMP2, which was awesome. The best part of the race came near the end. At that point, the sun came back out. It was warm again. I wasn't shivering anymore. And I was treated to an absolute barn burner between Tom Blomqvist and Felipe Nasr. The 7 Porsche versus the 31 dominant Cadillac. Those two were fighting it out all race long. But within the 2 hours to go mark, that's when it really heated up. I recall, and not only that, but the 6 Porsche was really in contention as well. But then Kevin Estre, came out on cold tires, went into the barrier, pretty much wrote off the 6 from winning the race or even getting a podium. So I'm just there watching Blomqvist. They put Blomqvist in the car, and this man just churns out these banger laps. He just whittles down Nasr's lead. He catches Nasr. I get this epic shot. I got some nice slow-mo shots throughout the weekend. I get this epic shot of Blomqvist going 3 wide. There's a Ferrari between the two of them. Nasr goes low, Blomqvist goes high, the Ferrari GT3 stuck in the middle, and they go right around it on some Schumacher Hakkinen Spa 2000 type thing. And Blomqvist goes round the outside and he takes the lead. From there, I think it's over. But then a full course yellow comes out. Blomqvist he undercut so that he could get by Nasr, and it worked. But because of the undercut, when the full course yellow came out and they had to pit, Blomqvist ended up having to put more fuel in the car to make it to the end. And the 7 car put less fuel in the car because they didn't need as much because they were longer. They went out longer. So the 7 car jumped the 31, and from there they duked it out. And the 7 car, Felipe Nasr, drove his heart out. The 2 of them drove their heart out. But Nasr did it. He held him off. Felipe Nasr won the Rolex 24. The Era 18 LMP2. Shout out Connor Zilic. Those guys won LMP2. Rizzi Competizione. Beautiful car. Always been one of my favorite GTD cars because it's always just been a simple red Ferrari. And you can't really beat that livery, can you? They won GTD Pro and GTD Am. Who won GTD Am? I don't even remember. It wasn't the Lexus. It should have been the Lexus, but it wasn't. It was the 57 Merc. Daniel Morad was behind the wheel as they crossed the line. So those are the 4 class winners. And yeah, man, that was it. From there, that was it. We left the track. Took an Uber from the track back to the hotel. Spent the night at my cousin's place because he lived closer to the airport. The next morning I went to the airport, boarded the plane, and went right back to Jamaica. And from there I went to work the next day. But easily just the best week of my entire life. For 1 week, lads, for 1 week of my life. How long have we been speaking now? Almost 30 minutes. For 1 week of my life, it felt like I was just surrounded by people that got me, you know? All my discourse, all my conversations I've ever had about racing had to be done virtually, had to be done over the internet because I didn't have anybody with me in real life that I could just talk wheel with. And this week, I was just surrounded by people that knew what I knew, I could talk to, and they'd understand me. It was just surreal. Best week of my whole life, man. I'd been watching Daytona, the Daytona 500, the Rolex 24, Motorsport in general for over 10 years now. Never thought I'd ever set foot on them hallowed grounds, and I did. It was so cool. So cool. I met so many drivers, saw them in person. And the funny thing about seeing these drivers in person is that the initial shock of seeing them is one thing. And then as time goes on, you realize that they're just regular people. You know, they're just regular people. So the initial starstruck kind of wears off, you know? So that was the cool part. I got some awesome shots. I got some awesome merch that I can wear back down here and say, yeah, that's right, I went to the Rolex 24. It's just the best week of my whole life, man. I always told people that if I were to ever go to a race, it wouldn't be a Formula 1 race because that stuff's just way too expensive, you know? And I don't think there's no way you get this kind of exclusivity with an IMSA ticket. I've been praising the IMSA ticket before I even experienced an IMSA ticket. And I experienced the IMSA ticket, and it was everything I had propped it to be. I was able to meet drivers, walk around the garage, meet all of these people without paying extra. It really made you feel as a fan that you were part of everything that was going on. But yeah, man, I don't want this video to be too long because editing it is gonna be insane. But I think I did a good job of summarizing the Rolex 24. The food was great, you know what I'm saying? I had tenders and fries, I had wings and fries. The lemonade, oh my god, Daytona lemonade is top tier. Awesome stuff. The water they had was Dasani water, which they have down here, but it's not as prevalent. It was good. All of that stuff was just great, man. You take out the 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. absolute Antarctica below zero experience. You take out just that one piece, and it was just a perfect weekend. Just a perfect weekend. But yeah, man, that's it. That's the story of me. That's the story of Intern and his first excursion to go watch an international race. Yeah, best week of my life. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. If you've never been to the Rolex 24, you need to go. It's magical. I didn't even mention the fireworks. Oh my goodness, man, the fireworks, just the best thing ever, man. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here. Where are we at? 31 minutes? Yeah, I expected this to be longer. I think I did a good job of summarizing it. But yeah, man, that was Intern at the Rolex 24. Hope you enjoyed.